This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, good morning. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. I want to dedicate the shir for the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, him and his family. In the last 7 or 8 months, if you noticed, I mentioned a name for Refuah, Chaim Meir Dov Ben Yente, but unfortunately now we have to say Le'ilui Nishmas Chaim Meir Dov Ben Yente, who passed away this week. Yimetz Hashem, his Almana, the family, his parents should have koyach to continue in his beautiful way. Yimetz Hashem. Ve'inei einechem ro'os kipi hamedaber aleichem. You hear sounds with your ears or with your eyes? Ki einechem ro'os, ve'inei einechem ro'os. Your eyes seeing kipi hamedaber. Rashi, b'chvoidi. And you see that I am circumcised just like you. Ve'od. Kipi hamedaber aleichem bilshon hakodesh. You see that I'm talking to you in Lashon Kodesh. You see or you hear that I'm talking to you Lashon Kodesh? You see the Lashon Kodesh coming out of me, or you hear the Lashon Kodesh?
We heard at some else.
Yeah, in Har Sinai. That's a very unique phenomenon, and therefore over there, all the Mefarshim ask, what's going on here? There's a famous Chidush Yarim when he says, why was it really necessary? Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't do Nisim just because, why not? Kodesh Baruch Hu likes to conduct his world b'derech hateva. Every so often we need a miracle. Outside derech hateva you do it. But why was it necessary? B'chol ha'am ro'im es hakodesh. They saw the voices. Normally you don't see voices. Because when Kodesh Baruch Hu says, for example, Lo tignov, don't steal. If you didn't see it, you could have thought it says, not Lamed Aleph, no. Lo, Lamed Vav. Yes, I'm doing it L'Shem Shamayim. No, I'm stealing it. It's L'Shem Shamayim. It's a mitzvah. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, no, don't steal. You have to see. Lamed Aleph, don't steal, period. So when that does happen, we need an explanation. Why? So here as well. In Echem Roes, your eyes seeing.
It's also Torah Shebiktav.
What's Torah Shebiktav? Over there. Good. But here? Yosef says, you see Lashon Kodesh. No, you don't. You hear Lashon Kodesh. That's the Shalav of Shlomo Kluger. And he answers. And how is it in the words, Kipi hamedaber aleichem, you see right now I'm talking to you, you see it's hinted that I'm speaking Lashon Kodesh. Who says? Maybe he's speaking Egyptian, like everybody else around. There's a Gemara in Yevamos Peches Amud Aleph. Why did Yosef recognize the brothers and they didn't recognize him? Because now he has a beard. Which is Bichlal HaShayla. If now he has a beard, he probably looks a little like his father. So why don't they recognize him? But maybe he had different style, different color, I don't know. But they don't realize him, they don't recognize him, he recognizes them. So the Gemara in Gittin Chaf Gimel Amud Aleph says, a blind person, why is he allowed to be with his wife? He doesn't recognize her. Tviyas Eina Dekala, but he hears her voice. And that's a complete recognition based on sound, and you can be with one wife. Great. That's the case. Why didn't the brothers recognize Yosef by his sound? The same voice. We grew up with you. You don't have a beard, fine. We'll close our eyes. Can you talk for a second? Just say a few words. And then we'll recognize you. Just like a blind person is allowed to be with his wife based on her voice, so too the brothers should identify and recognize their brother based on his voice. Says Shlomo Kluger, a tremendous chiddush because of this. This is true when you're speaking the same language that you're familiar with. But if the person will start speaking a different language, if the wife of the blind person will start speaking in a different language that she normally doesn't speak to him, the sound sounds different. And he would not be able to be with her based on that. Oh, I recognize your voice. No, you can't. If it's not your regular language that you normally speak with her, you cannot rely on that. That's the case until now. Yosef was speaking in Egyptian. In Egyptian, you can't rely on the sound that you're familiar with and the voice of the person because it's a different language. Different language, you can't rely. It's Pilei Ploim. And therefore, now it's clear why Yosef says to them, now that I'm speaking to you Lashon Kodesh, I stopped speaking Egyptian. I moved to Lashon Kodesh. Now, again, you can identify me based on Tvius Eina Dekala. Tvius Eina, as if the eyes, your eyes are seeing, it's like a person who sees something and identifies it, so too you can rely identification coming through your ears, and that's why it says, your eyes are seeing Tvius Eina of the sound, the Kala, and therefore you can rely that I am in fact the same Yosef that you knew because I'm speaking Loshon Kodesh. Vayenashek lechol le'achav. Yosef gives a kiss to all his brothers, Vayev Kaleim, and he cried. What's the idea about kissing? What is it about kissing? Why do we kiss? Biologically, it doesn't make any sense. You don't gain anything from a kiss. So what is it about a kiss? Obviously, it's an expression of love. But why? What do we do with that? The Mekubalim explain that a kiss is a desire to give the very breath of your life to the person whom you love. And they respond with giving you a kiss, and again, it's their desire to give the breath of their life to you. I think with that we can understand what Mishnah Bua writes in Taf Ayin Zayin, Seif Kotten Hey. He brings on the Shla HaKodesh that people who like mitzvahs give a kiss to the mitzvahs, give a kiss to the Arba Minim, give a kiss to the walls of the sukkah when you come in and out of the sukkah. We know that we give a kiss to the tzitzis and we give a kiss to the Sefer Torah, and we just don't stop kissing. I think with that, in essence, we're as if saying, we want to kiss you, Ribono Shel Olam. You are the ones who commanded on this mitzvah. We can't really kiss HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so we command on that which you commanded us on, and we're attaching ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and with that, as if we're giving the breath of our life that HaKadosh Baruch Hu instilled in us back to Ribono Shel Olam. Vayishlach esecha vayelchu, vayomer aleim al tirgezu badarech. What does that mean, al tirgezu badarech? What does that mean? Al tirgezu. Don't get upset. What does that mean? The address? 4524. Mem Hey Chaf Daled. Al tirgezu badarech. The Gemara in Masechet Tainis, Daf Yud says, don't learn be'iyun. Don't delve into it. If you do, you're going to miss your stop. You're going to take the wrong turn. So you can learn, but not really, don't delve into it. Says the Ksav Sefer, if that's so, and one should not learn be'iyun on the way. So Yosef is telling the brothers, now you're going back down to Israel, don't learn be'iyun. So how come Yaakov Avinu didn't warn them? On the way to Mitzrayim, if this is so, and everybody's Mekayim the whole Torah before it was given, Yaakov Avinu should have said to them, Abba Yisai, you're going down to Mitzrayim, don't learn be'iyun. Who knows, maybe you're going to get down to Sudan. You're going to, I don't know where you're going to go. You're going to Lebanon, you're going to go up north instead of going down south. If it's true, how come Yosef is warning them and not Yaakov? Says the Ksav Sefer. He brings from Sefer HaChaim. Who's Sefer HaChaim? The brother of the Maharal. He says, B'derech Tzachus. Yaakov Avinu, why is he sending the guys down there to Mitzrayim? Because they're starving. They have all kinds of worries. Da'aga parnasa. When you're worried about parnasa, Yaakov Avinu knew they're not going to learn. Even kemach and Torah. There's no kemach. That's the reason they're going down there. Yaakov Avinu says that's not a problem now. But now when they come back from Mitzrayim, and Yosef supplied them with all the good of Mitzrayim, now they say shit, now there's no problem. Now mistama, they're going to sit and learn, so I have to warn them, don't do it. That's what the Ksav Sefer says. Chanukah Satorah asks the same question, and he says, the world asks, how come Yaakov Avinu didn't warn him? But same thing, don't learn on the way to Mitzrayim. The idea is, you shouldn't learn because that's going to delay you. If you're concentrating on driving, so you're going to drive faster. If you're doing a million other things, you can't drive as fast. And Yaakov Avinu wants them to go as fast as possible to Mitzrayim. So why didn't Yaakov Avinu warn them? Says Chanukah Satorah, what's greater, Talmud Torah or Kibud Avim? That means the reward that you're getting for Talmud Torah has the weight corresponding to all the mitzvahs. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. But what's greater? Kibud Av or Talmud Torah? Which means, which one do you have to reject for the other? You still think Talmud Torah? You should, because that's what the Gemara says. Megillah, Tetzayin Amud Beis, Gadol Talmud Torah, Yoysa me'atzalas nefashos, and Yoysa mikibud Av. How does the Gemara know Yoysa mikibud Av? Because the Gemara says, Yaakov Avinu was punished for not honoring his parents 22 years that he was in the house of Lavan, but he was not punished for the 14 years that he was in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever, because Gadol Talmud Torah more so than Kibud Av. Great. What was the punishment of Yaakov for those 22 years? Yosef is away from him. He can't honor him. He can't be with his son because he wasn't with his parents for 22 years. So Yaakov didn't have to warn his boys, listen, don't learn on the way to Mitzrayim. They themselves knew that you can't. Why did they know? They saw Yaakov Avinu, their father, was punished. They're not going to want to be punished like him. At that point, Yosef is still not around. Nobody knows where he is. So they thought that Kibudav is greater than learning. You see, Yaakov Avinu was punished even for the 14 years because his 22 years ended. How come Yosef is not back? It must be Yaakov is continuing to be punished for the time that he spent in yeshiva, which means Gadol Kibud Av more than Talmud Torah. So they're not going to learn because they want to come back to Yaakov Avinu as fast as possible. They're not going to, as if, waste their time learning because it's going to delay coming back. So there's no reason to. But we see. What's that?
Maybe you could say they need to bring food back. They were all hungry. You need to already bring food back to Canaan.
But Talmud Torah is greater. So be hungry a little more.
You have to bring food back.
Mistam is not Pikuach Nefesh. If it was Pikuach Nefesh, Yaakov Avinu would also go down with them. There, he has time to send them and to wait all the way till they come back, and not everybody else went with them. Mistam is not Pikuach Nefesh at this point. But we need it. But Talmud Torah, you said before, Talmud Torah can get kulam. Maybe it overrides everything else, including Kibudav. That's what they thought at this point in time, and therefore he didn't have to warn them. But Lemaise, Yosef, when they see Yosef, when they come to Mitzrayim and they see, oh, so that means Yaakov Avinu is not punished for the time in yeshiva because now Yosef is around, and Yaakov Avinu is going to again see his son. Mimelu, we see that Gadol Talmud Torah more so in the Kibudav. So Yosef has to say to them, no, it's true. Talmud Torah is greater, but please don't delay. Go as fast as possible back to your father Yaakov, and therefore he tells them, don't learn on the way, even though technically speaking, Gadol Talmud Torah, Yosef Mekibudav.
Usually when you come back from a trip, coming back is much faster.
Maybe it feels faster. And maybe it's right when you're living here, because when you come back from the States, when you visit, it's faster because it really is faster. It's about an hour short of the flight. That's because direction of the winds. But Lemaise, maybe it has to do with your feelings.
Even driving. You come back from a trip.
I think it depends on traffic. I think it depends. If it seems, but not necessarily it is. If the distance is the same and traffic is the same, it's going to be the same, unless you drive a little faster. But that's only two interpretations. Altir Gezu B'Darech really means, the Ibn Ezra says, Altir Gezu B'Darech, don't start blaming each other, and therefore you're going to get upset at each other. Why did you do it? It's all because of you that we sold Yosef. It's all because of you that this happened. Relax. Don't fight. That's what he was saying. Hadar Zekenim, Ba'alei Tosfos, Altir Gezu B'Darech means don't be worried. Al tifchedu misakana sadech, don't be worried because I control the whole area and no one will be able to harm you. And some explain, and that's a tremendous chiddush, exactly the opposite of what we always understood. Who gets upset? Don't get upset on the way. Who does get upset? One who doesn't have Torah. He warned them, don't stop learning. It's exactly the opposite of what we always understood. If you're going to stay away from Torah, you're going to get upset. So don't stop learning. Moishav Zkenim ala Torah, again, Ba'alei Tosfos, Al tirkezu b'darech means literally what we learn in the Gemara in Megillah, in Tainis. Don't learn. Ask the Moshe Zkenim, what happened to uvelechtecha v'derech? The Torah says you should learn. And Yosef says, don't learn. The Gemara says in Soita Memtes, also in Tainis, Daf Yud over there, two Talmidei Chachamim who are traveling, and they're not sharing Torah, they're not speaking Divrei Torah. They should be consumed in fire. So Yosef is not worried about that. No, stay away from Torah. What's going on? And because of that, says the Moshe Zkenim, this means something totally different. Al tirgezu b'darech means don't be machmir on yourself in divrei halacha. Machmir in what? A traveler sometimes can be lenient in different things. For example, demai. One should not eat demai before he takes maisa. But a poor person, a person who's traveling, is allowed to be lenient and to eat demai. If you're going to be machmir on yourself, your host is going to be upset. You're allowed to eat dmai. He serves you dmai. He's an amaret. He serves you dmai. And he says, no, we don't eat this. Your host is getting so upset. Don't get your host upset on the way. Since, what's that? Me too. Moshe Zkenim Maltira just got a skama from you and me. Baruch Hashem. Since we're talking about traveling, listen to a ma'aser. Reuven traveled I think it was the turkey. It doesn't make a difference where, but I think it was the turkey. Turkey. He meets his friend over there in Turkey. And his friend says to him, can you do me a favor? I just purchased some beautiful 2 pairs of tefillin, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, for my father who lives in Eretz Yisrael. You're going back to Eretz Yisrael. Please take them with you. He says, sure, b'simcha. No problem at all. He gets to the airport, and the security over there open up everything, and they look at this, and the guy says to him, what are these ropes and boxes do? What are you trying to do with these straps? He says, no, it's a religious article. We put it on our head. We put it on our arm every day. It does a lot of things. You can access to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very interesting. I understand. You said you put one on your arm and one on your head? He said, yeah. So why do you need 2? Why do you have 2 bags? He says, what do you mean? One for weekdays, one for Shabbos. So wait a second. He picks up the phone, the security guy, and he calls somebody else in security who works there, who happens to be a Frum Jew. And he says, do you have this custom that you put on these boxes and straps on the arm and the head? And he says, yeah, on weekdays and on Shabbos. He said, Shabbos? No, we don't put tefillin on Shabbos. No such thing. He says, oh, wait a second. So he says to this guy, the traveler, I'm going to take these boxes and see what you're hiding inside. You're probably trying to smuggle something. This guy is so nervous. The security guy takes the tefillin. He comes back after a few minutes, and he says to him, you're never going to see this tefillin again. That's it. Confiscated him. Now comes this traveler, Reuven, and he asks, do I have to pay because of my lie? This called kibbut. Am I considered pshia, negligent? It's because of me that this happened. Or, oines, I could have thought this is going to happen, and therefore I'm patu. Shomer chinam. I took this gladly. I'm not being paid to guard, to watch over this. I'm a shomer chinam. Is he chayav? Is he patu? Rabbi Yisai dayani mumchim. What do you say?
This was a custom made in Turkey?
Yeah.
No.
Very not Jewish.
I would say he's chayav to pay.
Chayav to pay.
Yeah.
How much you want to pay? Only for Rashi or for Rabbeinu Tam as well?
Just for 1 pair.
For 1 pair. Achidish. How come?
Wait, they took both pairs?
Betach. Sure.
It was his pshia saying that's on Shabbos. He lied.
Good.
Why do that? If he would have said one for any time, one for that, and one said during the week, I said so they would have. I don't think it'd be a problem.
So you only lied about Shabbos, not about B'yudis. So that's only 1 pair.
Exactly.
Chidish. Chidish from the land of Chidushim. What you're saying? Do you have a source?
No.
No, not yet.
When we say Shabbat, actually it means basal shemachon tafuach v'se'ar.
Cute. That's the Gon Mevina. What does it mean? You don't put tefillin b'Shabbos? I'm sorry. This is tefillin b'Shabbos. The Gon Mevina says it's an acronym. Rashi Tevos. Av.
Sorry, basal v'se'ar v'basal tafuach.
Basal tafuach. Inflated area on your arm in the bicep.
He's a shomer chinam.
He's a shomer chinam. Shomer chinam is patu if it was a gneva, if it was an aveda, but he's chayav if it's pshia, if he's negligent. If he caused this because of his lie, why would he be patu?
He tried to avoid he didn't do it for doing the pshia. To say that.
Are you allowed to lie to do this? Are you allowed to lie to do this?
To say the pair of I heard the story of a black guy that came to the Jewish store with a pair of tefillin, and he wanted a bunch of money. And they said, okay,
Mexico.
Very nice, very nice. Where is the right
Mexico.
Arm? Where's the right arm? Yes, okay, so I give you a few dollars, but it's not worth much. So he lied to get the tefillin back. So why not?
Who says it's right? I'm asking you allowed to do this. You'd give me a proof from a person who did it. Who says it's right? I don't know. I'm asking. I'm still at the stage of asking questions. Soon we'll try to adjust the answer. What? What did Yehuda do?
He says, where's your brother? And he says, he's dead.
Why can't he assume that he's dead? You have to assume if so many years pass, Yosef would announce to them, by the way, I'm here, I'm alive.
Before he said he said he was alive, no?
Who said he was alive? So he outwardly lied.
He didn't lie by saying Binyamin is another brother is Binyamin. Yaakov have told him, why did you have to say anything?
So you're not allowed to lie. And because of that, you want him to pay for both pairs or only for one?
I guess both pairs. No, one doesn't make sense.
It makes to him. The whole thing. It's the all or none principle. You want him to pay for the Rabbeinu Tam or Rashi? It depends on which one is more expensive. How do you want to work it out?
One that he wouldn't wear, when he wouldn't wear regularly.
You continue to build up on your Chiddush, another Chiddush.
How do we know it made any difference what he would have said? If he'd have said, Rashi would say, the man could have still...
Right, but the fact that he did go ahead and lie, does that in itself obligate him? Is that considered pshia? You're allowed to lie. You're not allowed to lie?
Did the lie cause it to be...
That's what it seems.
I don't think you would have to pay because if you would have said Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi, they may have taken one anyhow. The guy was out together.
So it's not because that he lied.
I think so.
Are you allowed to lie?
Only for three things, the Gemara says, right?
Talmid Chochem only for 3 things. Somebody else maybe more. You're sending us the Gemara Bab Metziach Av Gimel. Talmid Chochem is allowed to change from the truth, doesn't say lie. Change from the truth for 3 things. Masechta, Puraya, and Ushpiza. But we have many sugyas throughout Shas that one can change from the truth. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself changed. Yevamu Samechei, for the shalom, the sake of peace. For tznius, to prevent extortion. For many, many other areas, one can change from the truth. Is this one of them? Megillah Daf Tes Amud Aleph. Talmai, the king, took 72 chachamim, elders, and he put them each in separate homes. And he said, I want you to translate the Torah. No texting, no emails, not even phone calls. And somehow, Kodesh Baruch Hu gave them Ruach HaKodesh and they were able to translate and make 15 changes, identical changes. For example, the passage says, Naaseh Adam betzalmeinu chidmuseinu. Naaseh, let's form man. Talmai would look at this and say, so that maybe there's a few entities up there. So they all changed it to E'ese Adam, Betzelem uvedmus, not Betzalmeinu, as if there's plural, as if there's many. Betzelem. Talmai HaMelech's wife, what was her name? Arnevet, Abani. So they changed it from the Arnevet in Parsha Shmini and Parsha Re'eh, don't eat. The Arnevet, they wrote it, Se'ir Asaraglaim, the one who's quick feet. Why? Because he would think they're making fun of me. They're talking about my wife, don't eat my wife, they're writing in the story, and they're making fun of me. So all 72 Chachamim had the same thought, and they all changed it. You see that when you can't explain to a goy, it's not shaykh that he's going to understand. It's machlokes in halacha, Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi, who's right? So we're machmir. There's no such thing. In the Goyish religions, this is what you should do, and this is what you shouldn't do. There's no such thing as 2 different shittus, a machmir. He'll never be able to chap it. Just like Talmai HaMelech wouldn't be able to chap it. So you see, you have a source that you're allowed to change. Here too, we have no problem changing from the truth for the sake of saving that tefillin. And the goy doesn't really have any kavana when he calls the other security guy, the frum guy, to find out, really? What do you do? Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam? He doesn't care. All he wants to make sure, as far as we're concerned, is that there's no security breach here. And the Yid couldn't even think for a second that this guy is going to continue to try and call a frum guy. What frum guy works in security that this guy knows that he can call him? Who would think like that? It's a complete honest. And even after the guy called this fellow to find out, it was such a far grama, such a far indirect damage that he caused, because the guy calls the Jew. The Jew says to him, what are you asking? Oh, you're asking why are you asking me now in the middle of your job if we have a minhag to put tefillin? Tell me what the issue is about. And then he would understand that's not a problem. He would tell him, the guy's playing games with you because he doesn't want you to take it. Don't worry, it's not a problem. Just check it, give it back to him. The problem is the Yid that heard this didn't ask. Is there a responsibility when you hear a strange question to respond and say, why are you asking this? Do you have this type of responsibility? I'm talking about the frum, the security guard, the frum person that works there. Does he have the responsibility when you hear a strange question? Do you have to go and find out why they asked you this question? Probably yes. Nida Daf Mem Amud Beis. The Gemara says, a guy came to Rava and said, can I do bris milah on Shabbos? Rava says, of course. Everybody knows you can do bris milah on Shabbos. And the guy steps out and Rava says to himself, wait a second. Why did he ask me this? Who doesn't know you can do a bris milah on Shabbos? Let me find out what he's asking. So he runs after him, and he finds him, and he says, why'd you ask this? It came out that the baby's head presented itself on Friday morning. So a bris milah, not in its time, on the 9th day, 10th day, let's say the kid was sick for a week and a half, now he's ready. You can't do the bris milah on Shabbos. Only on the 8th day, milah bismana, you can do on Shabbos. So immediately this guy was coming to ask him because he had something, a strange situation. You have to find out. It's not normal that a Goyish security guard calls you and says, do you have a minute to put tefillin on weekdays and on Shabbos? Obviously something happened. Why didn't you ask him? So if he didn't, it's such a faraway grama that this guy, the traveler, caused, Mimele, he's not responsible. And even after the lie of this traveler, and after this guy responded by saying, no, we don't put tefillin on Shabbos, still, the security guy should have taken it away. This is very strange. Why the guy's saying to me, let me check it, and he checks it, and they see there's nothing inside. How come he decided not to give it back to him? So such a faraway grama that this guy caused, Mimele is not going to be chayav. And more than that, even if it would be a shomer sachar, it should be excluded. Because it's oinus, it's a complete oinus. There's so many things going on here that shouldn't have happened. Mimele, this guy's complete oinus, is a shomer chinam for sure. And even if you want to call it a safek, from safek we're not going to take money from somebody's pocket. And even if it was shomer sachar lichoira, he should be exempt completely, even for the Rabbeinu Tam. Because it's a complete oinus, one doesn't have to pay. There was a Rabbi Wolfson used to go to Russia all the time to give tefillin, to give other things, you know. So he once came to Russia, and he had a bunch of pairs of tefillin with him. And the security at the entrance to Russia asked him, what are these? Oh, it's a religious article. Why do you have so many? What do you do with this? He said, I put it on the arm, I put it on the head. So why do you have another bag? I put it in the other arm. And why do you have another 2 bags? Said, my wife, she also needs a tefillin. So they let him come in, but they wrote in his passport that he came in with 4 pairs of tefillin, and he must come out of the country with 4 pairs of tefillin. So he came into Moscow, and he gave them the tefillin, and he asked, please give me a pasul of tefillin from the Gliza. Mistama you have in Shemesh, you have Gliza. He took 4 pairs of tefillin, and he left Russia with them as well. Im naval tisnabal, with a Russia like him, Russia, you should do the same.
What would have happened in the case of the messenger? Let's suppose the messenger, the tefillin was also confiscated, and he was put in prison for smuggling for a few years, and he suffered the loss of his job and parnasa. Would that then be grama? The person that gave him tefillin would have no responsibility for what happened to him? Complete grama. You accepted this. Normally this doesn't happen. The worst thing that can happen is that they take the tefillin, like they did here. Why would they put him in jail? He didn't do anything, and there's nothing in the tefillin. Vayeso Yosef Merkavto. Yosef gets ready. We're at Memvav Chavtes 46:29. Vayeso Yosef Merkavto. Vaya Likrat Yisrael Aviv. Yosef is getting ready to see his father. Vayera Elav. He was seen to him, and he cried. Who was seen to whom? Vayera Elav. Who was seen to whom?
You don't know.
Yes, we do, Rashi. Vayera Elav, Yosef Nira El Aviv. Yosef was seen to his father. Comes of Naphtali Top and asks, what did Rashi add? Of course, Yosef is getting ready. The whole pasuk is talking about Yosef. Yosef is getting ready. He's so excited. He didn't see Yosef in Yaakov in how many years? 22 years. You know who's Yaakov Avinu? Forget about the fact that he is his father. In Bab Metzia Pei Daled, in Bab Basanun Chet Amud Aleph, in both places, Gemara says, the beauty of Yaakov Avinu was a sample of the beauty of Adam Arishon. To see a Yaakov Avinu, the glory, the Kedusha, the Tahara that emanates from his face, who wouldn't want to see him? And it's his father. He misses his father terribly. So he really should have said, and it really doesn't need to say, Vayera Elav, because obviously Yosef wants to see Yaakov. So why does he see? He was seen to him because Yosef said, I have such a desire to see my father, but it's not about me. It's about Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu misses me, and he wants to see his son that he didn't see for 22 years. So I will be seen to him. I put my wants and needs aside, and I allow my father to see what he wants to see first. In other words, that's the ultimate in Kibudav. Yes, anybody's going to see me, but it's not about me. So Yosef makes sure that he is seen to his father, so his father can see him, even though he has the desire to see him as if first, but he takes care of his father first. Since you did so good in the previous question, we're going to ask another shayla, halachic shayla. Inyan de Yoima, Parshas Toldos. Tuesday, 3 days before Parshas Toldos, was the ceasefire. Do you remember? Who remembers it even? A month and a half out? Yeah. There was a family that wanted to do a big get-together. Everybody was afraid to go up north. There are sirens, there are missiles all the time. So the Zimmer owners over there, there's no business. The prices went down, unbelievable. 300 shekels for a Zimmer for a Shabbos. This family, a lot of different families together, the whole family wanted to get together, 50 people. So they contacted this owner of the Zimmers, and they're a brave family, they don't care. They want to do a Shabbos there. And they made up a deal with him, 300 shekels per Zimmer. And one of the families is very, very poor, so the owner said, you know what, one Zimmer is on me, give it to you for free. Everybody's excited. They send them a little deposit, and that was a week and a half before Parshas Toldos, and then Tuesday, Parshas Toldos came, ceasefire. What happens when the ceasefire? Price goes up. Price goes through the roof. People start calling the owner of this place, and they offer tremendous amount. So this guy calls back, Reuven, the one who represents the family, and he says, listen, I couldn't imagine this. You understand what's going on here? The phone doesn't stop ringing. And it's going to get more and more and more on Wednesday and Thursday. So you understand, I can't give it to you for 300 shekels like we agreed. It's 400 shekels per bed. There's 50 of you, it's 20,000 shekels. But I'm being nice about it. I'm giving you the first right to choose. If you want, great. If not, I'll give you back all your money. The deposit that you send me, the small deposit for the small amount, I'll give it back to you. But you understand, I'm not going to suffer this unbelievable loss. 20,000 shekels as opposed to whatever 1,500 shekels that we agreed on. It's a joke. I don't need to absorb this loss. And the family says, but we agreed. We made a kinyan. So what if the price changed? That's your loss. It's not our loss. Why should we lose out? We gave you already a deposit. We made a kinyan. We had all kinds of preparations. We bought the food and everything. What are you going to cause us a loss? Rabbi said they had mumchim. What was right? What do you do with it?
A famous story from the Gemara when a non-Jew comes to buy a Jew from his rabbi, and the rabbi is in the middle of the pillar, and the non-Jew
of Safa.
Yeah, or something, and he keeps raising the price, but the rabbi doesn't respond because he's in the middle of the pillar. And when he finishes his tefillah, we've gone up to an strong. Can
we compare? First of all, the Gemara dashens on this. V'doiver emes bilvavo kegon of Safa. Look at that. A person who's true in his heart. But how can you compare? There's no agreement between the two. He in his heart decided, okay, I'm going to sell it for the first price I heard, which was $100. When he got to $2,000, but I already agreed to sell it to you for $100. That's of Safa. Midas Chasidus. Does he have to? Is he not allowed to take the $2,000? Did I agree with you on the first price that you said? No. The guy fooled himself to think that he's not responding because he's not happy with the price. The truth is he was davening the Kosh Baruch Hu, that's why he didn't respond. But the guy doesn't need to know this. There's no agreement. Here there's an agreement. There's an kinyan. I sent you money. Is it a kinyan?
I think it's a no-brainer.
The what?
In the sense that they made a kinyan, they give him a deposit, it's an agreement, the price, that's it. It's done. Never seen that I order something and then prices changed before delivery and they say, sorry, now it's the market. But then the market said, they made an
doesn't even start, you say?
They have it made, it's finished.
Doesn't even start.
I don't think so.
I disagree. I think the circumstance changed drastically. He's willing to give back the deposit, he's willing to give back all the money, and it would be a tremendous loss to the
owner. Not only that, the owner says, the government pays me, compensates me, and as if participates in the amount, and that's why I'm able to charge so little. So now, I rented it to you, or agreed to rent it to you, based on that. Now that the ceasefire, the government is not paying me anything for the Shabbos, so you're making me lose, even more.
They didn't write it as a proviso on the contract.
They did not. But isn't that force majeure? Koach Elyon, something nobody could have expected. Isn't that Makas Medina? we have a rule. This one says this, and this one says this. Ad she'yavo hashlishi v'yachya b'neihem. And who's the shlishi? Who's the brave shlishi?
You.
Is the other shlishi?
What comes out of your lips you're supposed to keep.
What if it was in texting or an email?
Supposed to, you know, supposed to what you commit yourself to,
even if it's a Makas Medina?
I would think so. Because otherwise,
First, we have to divide our answer into two. The agreement for all the tzimmers and the one that the owner decided to give for free as a gift. Is that like a neder tzedakah, which cannot be annulled? He decided to give it for a family he doesn't have. He says that does it turn into a neder tzedakah, and therefore this is not even we can't even discuss this. It's a neder tzedakah, or maybe not.
why is he doing it? Because it's a poor family and he wants to help them. It's no difference giving them a dealer or giving them 100 shekels.
So it's tzedakah. So that he cannot nullify. And the other,
They all come in the same deal, right?
they're all coming together. But he felt bad. So
Separate them.
because he said, I feel bad. You're saying one of the family doesn't even have money. You know what? This one is on me. So that's a tzedakah. The rest, I'm getting money for. I'm providing you a service. I'm giving you a place to stay. And I'm getting paid. This one is on me. What's on me? On me means tzedakah.
Maybe that Hasidut from the buyer is to say, I'm going to pay it for you. because-
But we're not knowing Midas Chasidus is a different Shulchan Aruch. We're talking about Choshen Mishpat. What he has to pay and what he doesn't have to pay. If he wants to be a Chassid after, he can send him whatever he wants. But a Chassid, you can't demand from a poor person to be a Chassid.
Maybe in that case, I mean, so that he has to know to give tzedakah for whatever he was going to give. So that means that would be the owner's chiyuv to be able to do that at least.
In other words, the value that he was promising, this family should give it somewhere else.
Yeah, well, for that one specific
Unit.
yeah.
Another great Chiddush. First of all, was there really a Kinyan? The family claims, we made a Kinyan. Was there a Kinyan?
They paid the
Deposit.
They did pay the deposit.
Only one Kinyan? There are two Kinyan in here. Normally, movable items are bought with what? What's the Kinyan? Meshicha or Agba. Shikoyach. Meshicha or Agba. You lift it, you pull it. Great. Can you do that to a tzimmer? No? So how do you do that? An agreement over the phone, is that considered a kinyan? Yes. It's called kinyan situmta. What's situmta? Minag hasoicharim. The minag, the custom of that place, how merchants do business. For example, if you're in diamonds, all you need to do is shake hands and say, Mazal u'bracha. But where's the kinyan? Where's the Mashiach? Where's the Agba? You don't need. Kinyan situmta. The minag hasoicharim, the minag of the merchants is that this is sufficient for us in this place, in this industry, to say this type of wording, and that provides gemirus das. The whole idea of kinyan is gemirus das, that I agree to sell to you and you agree to buy from me. So we have kinyan situmta because normally that's how it works. I call a place far away and I agree with him, I will come in this and this date and I will give you this amount, and he agrees, there's a kinyan. And on top of that, he sent the money as a deposit. That's a kinyan kesef. And the rest he now owes. He has a debt. So we have two kinyanim which they made. But what about karka? Is karka also acquired with kinyan situmta? The shach brings from the bach that it doesn't work. But the Maharshal says it does work. And even the bach would probably admit that it does work in a place where that's the minhag to do it. Well, you don't have a minhag. It's a problem to buy karka through a kinyan situmta. But when you have a minhag to do that, and that's how this is done throughout, you want to go to a place, you're going to drive to the place, you're going to fly to a different country, pay him, and then come back, and then go back later for a vacation? Of course not. That's normally the way we do things. It's kinyan situmta, and it will work even, seemingly, according to the Bach. So they had two kinyanim, kinyan situmta and kinyan kesef when he pays the deposit. Additionally, the simmer that he wants to give to the family as a tzedakah, lichoira, is considered really tzedakah. Choshen Mishpat Siman Reish Mentes, Seif Aleph and Reish Daled as well. We learn about a person who promises someone else, I will give you a gift. Can he retract? You know what? No, I don't really think I'm going to give you that gift. Can he retract? It depends. Matana mu'etes, a small gift, you should not retract. And if you do, the Shulchan Aruch calls you Michusare Yamana. We don't trust this guy anymore. He loses his trustworthiness. It's terrible. Matana Getoila, you're allowed to retract. Because when you promise to a person, I'm going to give you a new car, he doesn't really count on a new car coming from you. He knows you. He's not counting on it. So immediately you can retract. But when you promise a small gift, he says, oh, Mishtama is going to give me. There's no reason why he's not going to give me a few dollars. Why not? So when you promise a small gift, you cannot retract. When you promise a big gift, you can. Says the Sma over there in Reish Mem Tes. But to an ani, if you promise a poor person, there's no difference if it's a small gift or a big gift, because when you promise to the ani, he relies on it. He knows that you know that he is an ani, and he relies, oh, Baruch Hashem, I'm going to get a big gift. And therefore he relies on it. If he relies on it, you cannot retract. But the question is, in our case, is it Makas Medina? Lichora, he can't retract, as he promised. But is this called, what happened here, a Makas Medina? What's a Makas Medina? A person took a field from his friend, he is leasing it, and locusts came and ate the whole thing. A storm, major storm, a hurricane, a tsunami, came and destroyed the whole area. If it's not local to this field, but it's the whole area, so he was supposed to give a certain amount from what grew, but nothing grew, or very, very little grew. He can actually deduct from what he promised to give him, because this is a Makas Medina. How could I have expected this? You see, the whole area, the whole country was affected by this, and therefore he can retract. The Rema and Ma'aram Padawa have a machlokes. Choshen Mishpat Simin Shin Chaf Aleph. Does this apply only for what we agreed on until now? Or it also applies to the future? Can I cancel our agreement for the future? Machlokes. But even though it's a machlokes, everybody agrees for the past, for what we agreed, I can deduct. Meaning, you can retract what you did, even though we made a kinyan. So, lichora, same thing here. We had a kinyan, but the Makas Medina. Makas Medina allows me to cancel all agreements. But that's not true, because the Makas Medina, what does that mean? That it came and it destroyed everything. Here, the country wasn't suffering, the country was healed. It's a refuah Medina. It's exactly the opposite. The prices went up. Makas Medina is when you lose. You don't lose here. You're just not going to make more money than what you thought. You were planning to make 300 shekels, and now you can make 1,000 shekels. That's not Makas Medina. That's called Misyake Hashar. The price has changed. So, Makas Medina means when you have a field, and the locusts came and ate everything, and you have a major loss. You rented out a place, and now the place is not rentable. The person can't live there. But if the person can still live there, in fact, the country was suffering something. There was a war, something happened, a major storm. But the person says, it's fine, I can still live here. He still has to pay the price that we agreed on, even though the price went down. Because for him, it's not a loss. For him, he says, I can live here. If he can't live here anymore, so then the Makas Medina applies. But not when he says, that's okay, I can continue living here, but I want a reduction in the price. Why? Because the prices around I see are different. So what? But you agreed on the price, and it's good for you, it's working for you. More than that, Choshen Mishpat Shin Chaf Aleph says, if a person takes a lease, he leases a field from his friend, and it's called Beis HaShlachin. What's a Beis HaShlachin? That you have to irrigate. It's not enough. It's not getting enough rain. And the spring where the field normally gets its water dried up, but there's still water in the big river. But now you're going to have to go with buckets, or you're going to have to hire workers to go all the way to the river. You can't cancel it. Even though you have a new tircha involved, you can't cancel it. So too in our case, there's no hefsid. There's no hefsid to the owner. There is preventing additional income. That's not called a hefsid. The price has changed drastically. It's nisyake hashar. The rate has now changed. The price increase. But there's no Makas Medina here. More than that, Choshen Mishpat. Reish Dalet, Seif Yud Aleph. The Rema brings two opinions regarding two people who agreed on buying a certain item, selling or buying a certain item, and they agreed on the rate. But the rate has changed. The price changed in the entire country. That if there was a kinyan, and one cannot retract, because the price change doesn't justify now canceling the whole thing. There's two opinions if he's considered mechusar amana, if he loses his trustworthiness or not. When some say you can't retract, even if there was no mekach taos over there. What the owner here also claims, he says the government pays me. And based on that, I agreed to give it to you for 300 shekels. It's like a person who says, I'm going to rent an apartment. The poor person comes and he says, I want to rent an apartment from you. But he doesn't have enough money. I charge 1,000 shekels, he only has 200. So another friend of his comes and says, I'll pay you the difference. If then the friend retracts and he says, I don't want to pay the difference anymore. So I'll say, the whole reason I rented to you, is because I had somebody else backing you up. But now when you don't, the whole thing is canceled. That's what the owner of the Zimmers claims over here, but it's incorrect. Can't compare the two. The government is not paying per Shabbos. The government assesses how much money overall you lost in your business, and the government pays you compensation. But they're not paying you per Shabbos. They're not paying you for that specific Shabbos that you lost. And more than that, it's not because the government decided to come in and to help that you decided to rent it to them. You're very happy, finally I'm getting a little income. What would you rather they would stay without anybody there? Nobody's coming at that time. When there was a war, nobody's coming. Finally, a family comes and decides to come and willing to pay 300 shekels, you're taking it gladly. So it's not because of the government. It's not because of the third party stepping in and says, I'm going to compensate. I'm going to pay the difference. That's not the reason. Mimele, he cannot retract. Like you said, there's no clause like that in the contract between us that if something changes, I'm going to change the price. We never made an agreement on that. It's not called a makas medina. It's called a refuas medina. Mimele, he can't change. Regarding the tzimmer that he promised as a tzedakah to the family, that is a nidrei tzedakah. But it's tzedakah betaus. If I would have known that I'm committing something which is worth 5,000 shekels for 300 shekels, it's a tzedakah betaus. It's a machlokes b'shar and b'silel. If one makes a hegdesh and made a mistake, very appropriate for a few days ago. Third day of Hanukkah, you light by mistake 4 candles. Your friend comes and says, why 4? We're still holding by 3. Oy, made a mistake. Can you take that 4th candle, blow it out and use it? Normally, Neros Hanukkah you can't use. Ela liroisam bilvad. But this is called hekdesh betaus. Beis Hillel is saying, we pass like Beis Hillel, hekdesh betaus choizer. It was a mistake. I thought today is the 4th night. It's only the 3rd. You can take that 4th night because the whole thing was a mistake. Nidrei tzedakah, by mistake, you put by mistake into the pushke 200 shekels. You only intended to put 20 shekels. It was dark. You didn't see what you're doing. It's a mistake. You can take the 200 shekels back and put 20 shekels instead. It was a mistake.
You have to come out to the hekdesh betois over there, or stam? You stam with the 4 candles.
I was makdish it for the mitzvah. It comes the mitzvah and grabs it. It's nidrei hekdesh. No, it was a mistake. The mistake, I can blow it out.
They have to come out to the hekdesh over here because is there such a thing? If I want to light 20 candles on the second night,
20 candles, no shaykhus to the mitzvah. I really thought it belongs to the mitzvah. I said a bracha over these 4 candles, thinking I'm beautifying the mitzvahs with the 2nd and 3rd and 4th candle. I made it into part of my Chanukah. It's part of the mitzvah. It's hekdesh. I was magdish it, and I had in mind I will not use it because it belongs to the mitzvah. That's called hekdesh betaus. Why did I make it? Why did I do it? A mistake. Hekdesh taus, choizer, retract. You can blow out the candle. Same thing over here. Hekdesh taus, nidrei tzedakah in a mistake. I can call the family and say I'm so sorry. The one that I promised for free, that you're not going to get. And lichoyer for that, you can charge the real price. Whatever the going price is. For everything else, you have an agreement. For this one, we never had an agreement. That was a mistake. When you promise to give a matana mu'etes or matana gedoyla. But that's when I knew that I'm promising to give you $100,000. Here I didn't understand. I thought it's really worth 300, and at the time it was worth 300, so that's what I committed to. But retroactively I come out and finds out now that at that time it wasn't worth 300 shekels. It was worth 5,000 shekels. It was a mistake when I told you it's going to be a small gift or a big gift. That's not the gift that I was talking about.
So we say, as if
it's tzedakah betaus. The whole thing was a mistake. I never committed to give something worth so much for so little. That's not like stam, I intend to give you a small gift or a big gift. That I know what I'm talking about, but I decided to retract. Here I didn't know what I'm talking about. And therefore, he can retract. Vayomer Paro el Yaakov, Kama yemei shnei chayecha. How old are you? You look ancient. So Yaakov responds, Vayomer Yaakov el Paro, Yemei Shnei Megurai, I'm 130 years old, but don't ask. Me'at v'ra'im hayu Yemei Shnei Chayai. 47, 8, 9. 47, Pasuk Chet and Pasuk Tet. Few and miserable were my days. Don't ask. Hard life. The Chizkuni brings a medrash. Because of these 33 words, Yaakov Avinu was supposed to live for 180, but he said some complaints. Don't ask. Miserable life, hard life, me'at v'ra'im. So 33 words correspond to 33 years that were taken away from Yaakov. Asks Reb Chaim Stein, Rosh Yeshiva tells, Wife Cliff, Ohio. What's the time on Yaakov Avinu? What's the time on Yaakov Avinu? In Brachas Nun Dalet Amud Aleph, we learn that just like you say a bracha for good things, you say a bracha for bad things. And the formulation is not the same. You don't say a tov ve'ameitiv when a tragedy happens. It's a different formulation of the bracha, and that is dynamis. Yaakov Avinu is right. Esav, the loving brother, what did he do to him? Lavan, Yosef, Dina, it doesn't stop. So many tzavos. So I can't complain. It really was bad. And you see that there's a different formulation. It's not a tov ve'ameitiv. It's a real tragedy. So you really say a bracha for dynamis. So why can't Yaakov Avinu complain?
He could complain. But from what he said, it looks like that Hashem put on him things he wasn't. He didn't make the recognition to Hashem by saying that.
But you see from the bracha that you recognize something bad happened. That's why you have to say dynamis. It's bad. Why are you calling it good? I should say, oh, it's so great. Should he say it? The problem is when bad things happen, it's very hard to demand a person to see the good in it. And therefore there's a new bracha called dynamis. But you, Yaakov Avinu, you saw the result. You saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took you away from Esav and from love and he saved you. You saw that he brought you back Dinah. You saw the good that came out in the fact that Yosef disappeared. He's now viceroy in Mitzrayim and he's going to sustain the entire family. You already saw what happens next. You're not in the middle of the bad things. Now you're coming at the age of 130. After everything is said and done. And now you see all the good and you still calling it few and miserable? Where is your Hakaras HaTov? If we can speak like this about Yaakov Avinu, there's some kind of a chisaron, something is missing in the recognition. It's all from the hands of the Rebbeinu Shlom, and it all is the Toiva. The Yavitz like that explains the pasuk we said the whole week. Oidcha Hashem ki nisani, v'tehili li Yeshua. We normally want to understand. Thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu. Thank you so much for taking me out of my misery. My affliction is over. Says the Yavitz, that's not what David HaMelech is saying here. Oidcha Hashem ki nisani. I'm saying thank you for the tzaros, the yisurim that I had, because through them I see you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I understand everything is the Toiva. V'tehili li Yeshua, that in itself became a Yeshua. Thank you from the affliction, because then I recognize the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because if you want, even through the terrible suffering, you can see B'nai Shiloh. So Yaakov Avinu, as if, complained for the yisurim. We all know a pasuk in Mishlei Lamed Zayin. Ki sheva yipol tzadik. Not Mishlei Lamed Zayin, Mishlei Chavdalet, pasuk Tet Zayin. Sheva yipol tzadik vakam. We think that tzadik falls, just like everybody else. It says the Torah Chacham, or the disciples of the Ari 350 years ago. That's not the pasuk saying. Ki sheva yipol tzadik. You see the tzadik falling. You don't understand. From this vakam, he rises. Because the Yisurim come to clean us. The Yisurim awaken us to do tshuva. So every time the tzaddik stumbles, right after that is vakam. Sheva is ribu. It's not 7. It can be 1,000,000 times. Every time he stumbles, from that Yisurim that he got, vakam, he rises to a higher level, to a new madriga. Because that's what Yisurim are supposed to do to us. To move us up. To help us climb. To get close to Rebbeinu Shalom. There's a pasuk in Eicha. Perek Gimel, pasuk Labed. Yisba becherpa. Comes Rabbi Avraham Galanti, Sefer Kol Bochim. This is more than 500 years ago. What is Yisba Becherpa? He should be satiated with Chepa was when he is offended, when he is insulted. Says yes. You should be so happy when somebody embarrasses you, more satiated than you had from the best dinner, from all the beverages and all the food. You should be satiated. Gewaltig Baruch Hashem, because it comes to clean us from our sins. Yisurim mechaprin, they atone for our sins. It awakens us to do tshuva. And he has a language. He says there, this habit to be satiated when people embarrass you is better and more effective than all the sigufim and tanyos. It's better than all the self-imposed afflictions that you can put on yourself. To be happy when something bad happens to you. Embarrassment, so upsetting. So upsetting, you should be satiated with it more and better than the best meal ever.
Why can't we just simply say Yaakov should have learned from Nachum Ish Gamzu?
Because Nachum Ish Gamzu came after Yaakov, so I can learn from him.
No, we knew all the Torah, didn't we?
You can say something different. In Brachos Samech Amud Beis, Rabbi Akiva teaches us, Kol David Rachmana Letav Avid. And the Arizal says in Gishar Gilgul in Makdam Alamedvav that Yaakov is actually Misgalgel in Akiva. Akiva is Yaakov. And by the way, Nachum Ish Gamzu is the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva, Chagiga Daf Yud Beis. So yeah, he had word to learn from. And we're not judging Yaakov Avinu. Of course, it's the Avos HaKedoshim. But we're quoting other people who give us a message through Yaakov Avinu. It's not that we have a claim on Yaakov Avinu. But if we can learn something from that. Chazal bring a Merdesh. Tanchuma, Vayeshev, Simen Gimel. Reb Chia and Reb Shimon, who are the sons of Rabbi Danossi. They're walking once in the street, and they saw Roman soldiers. So Reb Shimon says to Chia, his brother, look, how fat are the calves of Esav. In other words, look how fit and healthy and strong are the Roman soldiers. So Reb Chia, his brother, says to him, what are you talking about? Come with me. He takes him to the marketplace, and he sees a basket full of grapes. And over the grapes, flies are hovering. And he points to the flies and he says, you see them? They are just like those soldiers over there. There's no difference. You're telling me, look how fat and strong the soldiers of Esav. The Roman soldiers. You should know they don't have more koyach than these flies. Reb Shimon goes back home to Rebbe. And he says, Daddy, you know what happened today? My brother and I were walking in the street and we saw the Roman soldiers. I told him, look how strong the soldiers of Esav are. And he told me, they're not better off than flies. Who's right? Rabbi Danossi says to his son, really? Reb Chia was willing to compare the soldiers to the flies? Why did he give them so much credit? And he explains. The flies do the service of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. The Pasuk in Ishaya, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Yud Ches says that Kodesh Baruch Hu sometimes whistles to the flies. Sometimes he calls the bees and the hornets, come and do my service. These soldiers are not doing a Kodesh Baruch Hu service. When he's trying to afflict us, they're not doing a Kodesh Baruch Hu service. So the flies are servants of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and they do his service. They're much better, they're much stronger than the soldiers, all the soldiers of Esav. Legions of soldiers. They're much better because they're doing the will of Ribono Shel Olam, and they don't have independent koyach. We tend to attribute as if independent koyach to the soldiers, whoever it is. Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, doesn't make a difference. They're not doing the service of Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's only because of our sins. And when we do tshuva and we do the right thing, they have zero koyach. They have less koyach than the flies because the flies actually do the service of Ribono Shel Olam. Last week we said something, some people asked me to repeat it, so we will. I don't think there's a problem doing repetition. Misra B'Chazara, 101 times, maybe we'll remember it. We said we need chizuk. We need chizuk these days. Tehillim Perek Lamed Beis, Leiv, the heart of the matter, Pasuk Yud, David HaMelech says, Ve'aboteach ba'Hashem, Chesed yesovevenu. One who trusts Ribono Shel Olam will be surrounded by Chesed. What does that mean, Chesed yesovevenu? The word yesovevenu will surround him, goes on the word Ve'haboteach. The one who trusts HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be surrounded by Chesed. How does it work? The word Ve'haboteach, if you look to the right and if you look to the left of each of these letters, you'll see what it's surrounded with. So let's see. The word Ve'haboteach is spelled Vav Hei Bet Tes Chet. You see in the red background. Vav Hei Bet Vav Tet Chet. Ve'haboteach. The letter Vav is surrounded from the right and from the left with a Hey and with a Zayin. That's the yellow background. its friend, the letter Hey, vehaboteach. The letter Hey is surrounded with a Daled and Vav. Before Beis comes the Aleph, and right after that comes the Gimel. Before Vav comes the Hey, and after that the Zayin. Before Tet is the letter Chet, and then the Yud. Before Chet comes the letter Zayin, and then the letter Tet. So these letters, Hey, Zayin, Dalet, Vav, Aleph, Gimel, Hey, Zayin, Chet, Yud, Zayin, Tet, surround the one who trusts Ribono Shel Olam vehaboteach. And these letters together make up the Gematria of 72. And David HaMelech said, vehaboteach ba'Hashem, Chesed yesovevenu. Chesed is 72. Mimele, it's right. The one who trusts Ribono Shel Olam vehaboteach. If he looks to the right, he looks to the left, all he will see is 72. 72 is Chesed, and he will be surrounded by Chesed. And Imir Hashem, may our lot be with those who trust Ribono Shel Olam. אחינו כל בית ישראל נשואים בצער ובשביה. העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצער ולבך ומפל העיר. משיעבוד לגאולה אשתו בעגול ובזמן קריב ואינו ימהר אמן.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.